When I bought the old cabin nestled in the Iron Peak Range, everyone in the tiny town of Brightwood thought I was mad. Remote, they called it. Unforgiving, I called it perfect. Miles from the nearest paved road, surrounded by a cathedral of ancient pines and the endless, indifferent sky. I wanted to disappear, to outrun the clamor of the city and the ghosts of my past. For weeks, it was everything I'd dreamed of: crisp air, the scent of pine needles, the satisfying crunch of snow under my boots. The silence was a balm, a deep, resonant hush that settled into my bones. But then, the silence began to change. It wasn't empty anymore. It felt expectant, heavy, as if something vast and patient was holding its breath just beyond the tree line. It started with the deer. Not just a missing deer, but an absence of all deer. The trails I'd once seen crisscrossing the forest floor were bare, the usual signs of life: droppings, rubbed trees, gone. Then came the tracks. Too large for a wolf, too narrow for a bear. They were long, multi-toed, with an unnatural spacing between prints, as if whatever made them had an impossibly elongated stride. I found them near the creek, where the ice was thin, then closer to my property line. The snow didn't just bear their imprint, it looked like the ground had been scraped, gouged, as if something had dragged itself, or something else, across the frozen earth. My solitude was turning into something else, a watchful isolation. One evening, I heard it, a sound unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It wasn't a howl, nor a growl, but a kind of dry, rattling whistle that seemed to carry on the wind for miles, yet also felt right outside my window. It vibrated in my teeth, a sound that spoke of ancient hunger and impossible anatomy. I froze, my hand clutching the old hunting rifle I kept by the fireplace. The dogs, bless their brave, foolish hearts, began to bark, a furious, desperate sound that was quickly cut short by a series of sharp, terrible yelps. Then silence. A ringing, oppressive silence that was far worse than the whistle. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that my dogs were gone. Panic was a cold, sharp blade. I boarded up the windows with planks from my woodpile, secured the door with every lock and bolt I had. I spent the next few days in a fog of fear, subsisting on canned goods, barely sleeping. The rattling whistle returned each night, closer, more insistent. It seemed to circle the cabin, a patient, tireless hunter. I peered through the cracks in my makeshift barricades, but saw nothing but the swaying pines and the relentless, falling snow. It was a creature of the dark, a phantom made of hunger. My supplies were dwindling. I knew I couldn't stay trapped in the cabin indefinitely. I had to make a run for it, but the thought of stepping out into that white, waiting world paralyzed me. The morning came, grey and unforgiving. I knew it was now or never. I packed a small bag with what little food remained, my rifle, and a handful of cartridges. My heart hammered against my ribs, a trapped bird. As I unbarred the door, a blast of icy wind hit me, carrying with it a faint, cloying smell, like stagnant water mixed with something metallic and rotten. It was the creature's scent. I stepped out, my breath pluming in the frigid air, and immediately saw them, the tracks. Not just on the ground, but scraped into the bark of the cabin walls, impossibly high, a series of parallel gouges that ended just above my head. It had been watching me through the window, eye level with my bed. I began my retreat, forcing myself into a steady, silent pace, rifle ready. Every snapped twig, every sigh of the wind through the pines, sent a jolt of pure terror through me. I didn't dare look back. I just focused on placing one foot in front of the other, pushing through the knee-deep snow, praying for the faint track that led to the nearest county road. After what felt like hours, I heard it again. That dry, rattling whistle, closer this time, almost directly behind me. I risked a glance over my shoulder, my blood turning to ice in my veins. There it was, tall, impossibly thin, a skeletal silhouette against the grey sky, with limbs that seemed to bend at too many angles. It was stalking me, not running, but moving with a slow, deliberate grace that was far more terrifying. My legs burned, my lungs ached, but I couldn't stop. I fired a shot into the air, a desperate, futile gesture. It didn't flinch. It simply tilted its head, a slow, deliberate movement that seemed to stretch its neck to an impossible length. And then it moved, not running, but covering ground with those unnaturally long strides, its many jointed limbs working in a sickening, fluid rhythm. I stumbled, fell, scrambling to regain my footing. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst through my chest. It was upon me, a presence of profound wrongness. Its scent enveloped me, a wave of decay and something else, something ancient and indescribably foul. I could hear the rattling whistle right at my ear, a song of triumph. I fired my rifle, blindly, instinctively, and heard a wet, gurgling sound. Not a cry of pain, but something deeper, a sound of ancient indignation. The creature recoiled, not from injury, but from surprise. It was just enough. I scrambled to my feet, abandoning the rifle, and ran. I ran until my vision blurred, until the world spun around me, until I could hear nothing but the roar of blood in my ears. I never saw it again, but I felt it. I felt its eyes on me, always. I made it to the county road, flagged down a passing truck, and collapsed. They took me to a hospital, treated me for exposure, and gave me sedatives. I told them a bear, a wolf, anything but the truth. I live in the city now, miles from any forest, any mountain range. But every time the wind whistles just right, every time the silence feels too deep, I smell that scent, and I know it's out there, and I know it's waiting for me to return, because I left something behind in that cabin, something it wanted. I left my fear, and now it owns it. Thank you for listening. If this story found you in the dark, subscribe and turn on notifications. A new tale waits every night.